Hey everyone, welcome back. Betsperts Golf, more Open Championship, more British Open. Andy, what's your thoughts? Are you a British Open or Open Championship guy? I posted this to Ron at the top of yesterday's show.
I mean, we it's been long enough where it's fine if you want to call it that. It's more confusing for like SEO and search.
Right.
It is like, when you do you search something for the US Open and you get like tennis stuff. Like, no. US Open PGA. US Open Golf. I need that instead. So I'm fine with whatever you want to call it. It's cool. It's the oldest major. It's the best trophy of the four majors.
It's
not the
%, the best trophy.
Not the best trophy across all golf tournaments, but it's the best trophy.
It sounds like an off-season show.
Yeah. We wrote trophy ranking. Oh, I did do that I did that for the John Deere. I did like a trophy tweet, right? I gave it an 8.1. That one's a deer. That one's pretty cool. But yes, the Claret Jug, very coveted. A cool course. We've been here before, as is a lot of the cases when we're over there. I'm sure you guys talked about 2017 yesterday on the First Look show.
Peak Spieth.
It was a different time, and it's something that we should talk about today because it's weird. You see those tweets where it's like one day you'll take your final Jager bomb and you won't even know it. You won't know that's the last one you'll ever take as you drift into middle age. Well, it's the same kind of thing. Like when you're a really good golfer and you're on the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and you're good and you're winning tournaments, there is going to be a time where you are at the best you'll ever be over like here's the 3-month stretch. This is my peak. We don't know when it's happening. You don't know when it's happening. And I mean, when you talk about peak Spieth, we didn't think that was ever going to stop. Like this guy's going to
23.
Win. This guy's going to win like 10 more majors before he's 30. And, we did the same thing with Scottie. And, just a little hiccup here, a little hiccup there. And suddenly it's not like Scottie sucks. The guy's amazing. He's still just, he missed the cut last week. I'm going to give him some grace to do that one out of every 80 tournaments or so. But, you just take a little step back and boom, maybe your peak was, that stretch in the spring and summer 2 years ago. And we're just never going to get back to that. And other people will fill in. Other people will win tournaments. You'll win a couple a year. You're just, you're like Rory of 3 years ago. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. But you're not that guy. Because we did that with Rahm. I mean, Rahm was that guy for a little while. Obviously,
absolutely
took a different path. So it'll be interesting to see over the next, into next year. Because Scottie has like 3 more tournaments left in him this year, man. Well, I mean, he's playing the 3M in the playoffs. So that's 5. No off-season stuff unless he does the WGC thing. I don't think Scottie's showing up at the good. Do we have a President's Cup this year?
We have a President's Cup this year. Yeah.
All right, I'll play that. And that's it. So it's not going to be a huge sample size, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the kind of the headlines this week. People hemming and hawing like, hey, he's a little longer. Is this value? It's the butterfly meme. Is this value? Yeah, he's 6-1 rather than 5-1. Like you're getting this huge boost on his odds. They're still not giving you an inch. So, I mean, maybe it's a DFS question. There's probably some value there as they lower the price a little bit. But
sure.
Anybody who built around him last week has to have a sour taste in their mouth. Or a bear. I mean, there were some guys that missed the cut, man.
Xander,
yeah. So, I don't know. Kind of a weird headspace coming into this one because of the conditions. It's crispy as shit. There's going to be a little rain, but it's not going to be enough to really do anything.
Seems like it's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be fun, and I do think the way it plays, it's not a week to go dumpster diving. Like there's some value in the middle of the board, but man, I'm not going too deep. And if I do, it's like, hey, I love this guy. Here's a top 20 bet on him. That's all I can really stomach for this.
I
And
think
it's
that's
not
fair.
the without Scottie market, because I said I've never feared the man. I've been adamant about not being afraid of the guy for most of the spring and summer. The wussing out bet on those guys is top 20. If it's a really crazy name, some deep shot, maybe it's a make the cut bet. But yeah, it's I have two bets. One is the one that everybody made that shortened, and one is, I don't know, just a guy who played well last week that I think the number's big enough for. So I took it pretty easy. And yeah, the dumpster diving.
Are you done? Do you think you're two? And
I don't think I'm done. I think I'm going to be
Okay.
live betting.
Okay.
I got the live betting bug because I've been playing on Kalshi too much. Not that you can't do it on sports books too, but
I'm working on some.
I watched that guy. Speaking of hitting, just an easy Ernie Els. How did the ball go that far? It barely looked like he swung. That was so sweet. That guy, I don't even know his name, from St. Louis in the home run derby.
Oh,
After
I watched highlights.
I had some Schwarber. That was my bet. And then once he started hitting balls, I'm like, he's never going to get tired. He's barely swinging and they're flying out. So I ended up betting him, which was a good hedge because he did win. So I'm probably going to be doing some live betting.
Okay.
We'll see how the conditions look, how it's playing, how some of these people are taking advantage of it. If there is a lot of clubbing down, I think that's an interesting thing to be watching for, how they decide to play some of these longer holes, because they're going to get so much run out and you don't want to end up in the gorse. There's like varying levels of missing here. And it's like, oh, it's just this light feathery heather. I can hit out of this, and you get a little worse, and it's knee deep, and then you get in the gorse and the junk, and you can really find some problems if you're inaccurate off the tee. Obviously, the bunkering here is quite different from what we're used to.
Yeah,
a little tougher than at the John Deere. So, I guess I'm gonna see how certain players adapt their playing style to this course once we get going, and probably do some live betting.
Okay.
But yeah, just two for me so far, and kind of gave the first one away.
Yeah, I think I know who it is, but I'm not sure. So maybe not. Listeners are still on the edge of their seat waiting for that.
You paid for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Yeah, I think it is going to be it is fascinating. We don't have the strokes gain data from 2017. Just didn't have it then. We do have some of like the baseline data, and you saw like a pretty low fairways hit rate. We touched on this, I think, on the Monday show too, where it was really important. Like you can't have foul balls, to your point, right? Like there are going to be, graduated rough. And I do think like the first cut, which appears to be, I want to say sizable or like larger than it normally is, but I think it is like a playable, place to be when ball runs out and, just kind of, rolls into the first cut. I think players will be able to, handle that no problem. It's just, you can't have the Spieth on 13 shots, and you can't have the Wyndham Clark. Some of the stuff that we kind of said at Shinnecock, right? You can't have foul balls. You kind of need to keep it in play. Shinnecock does have some links-ish, traits. So that was, I think, something that we drew upon. I think we will here as well. I think it's going to be firm and fast. I think you see a significant amount of less than driver off the tee based off of what we're hearing from the course so far, especially with it being firm and fast and baked out, because just these guys are really incredible. I still haven't seen a guy who's like carrying 320, controlling his spin off the tee, right? Like we're not quite there yet with the technology, where I can plant it at the spot where I carry it and it stops. So you got to make sure that you are carrying your rollout and control, because to your point, there are fewer bunkers on the course, but they are, especially fairway bunkers, extremely penal from what we're hearing. Like, almost a full shot and a, like half shot to a shot penalty if you are in the fairway bunker. Some of those are just, you cannot go at the pin or the green from them. So, that's, I think, what we want. I think we want a really interesting challenge, controlling your ball, using the ground, all the, elements of the Open Championship. You are an early bird. I typically will wake up to a message from you. Will you be up earlier than normal to take in Thursday, Friday golf?
Probably just like 4. I'll get up at like 4. I can't do the
pretty early.
I mean, I know, but some of these people that are like, I'm getting up at 1 a.m. and I'm going to watch everything. It's like, yeah, but then what's your day look like? Like, you must not have like kids or responsibilities, because that's a lot, man. So I'll get up a little early. I like to wake up, and it is the one tournament where you make sure, and last week too, I guess, you make sure you star your guys before the before the tournament starts. You don't do it that morning, because you want to wake up and see how they're doing, look at it on the course, and like, oh, you got a couple of guys popping, and they do have their own app. It's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
If you're the kind of guy who likes your scores a little quicker, for some of the guys who maybe aren't on the broadcast that you're watching, I would download the Open Championship app. It's faster than, it's just like all these other majors. Like the PGA app is going to have the scores, but it's not as fast. It's going to be a little delayed compared to what you're going to get on the actual Open app. So I downloaded it. It's pretty decent.
The live leaderboard, Betsperts Golf, also very, very quick.
I think honestly that would be pretty quick too. I would use the live leaderboard. We're going to work on some improvements on that. I'm really excited about getting together a new like a cut line tool, try to do some cut line estimations, some win probability estimations, some live betting value estimations on some of these guys. So yeah, we're going to work on some cool tools over here, especially as we get through kind of the meat of the season here. Like, it's funny how I will just shit on the playoffs every year because they're not that fun. I hopefully Roll-Up has something up his sleeve to finally make them exciting, because they're just they fall so flat compared to some of the bigger events. I did want to ask you about comps, and you kind of brought up a good point. We have 2017. We don't have great data because of it was just being pre however you want to say it, pre shot link, pre getting some of that at some of these events, and not full pre shot link, but shot link at some of the non PGA events, as this is an RNA run golf tournament. Comps. Did you look at other opens and try to find a good comp? I am leaning a little on Royal St. George's in 2021. As far as conditions, scoring, and all that, I'm not going and being like, hey, I'm going to bet Colin, and also it was kind of weird because we were still in the midst of
COVID.
Yeah, like the COVID run over, but I kind of think that's what we're going to end up for a score here as well, is in that 15 range, unless, it's looking like we could get a little more wind now on the weekend as the weather starts to firm up, but man, we're going to need quite a bit. If some of these guys are able to club down and still get quite a bit of run out and end up with, easier shots into these greens, and these greens aren't going to have a ton of break from what I'm understanding. There's not huge undulations. I don't think, it's a different kind of, So I feel like the score is going to be mid-range like that, a little lower in the Masters. And I don't know, did you run into any other comps? Is, I guess, where I've said with that.
Yeah, it's so tough because it's such a unique test. Even like we just don't see a lot of hybrid links, and even those are unique tests. So you're really pulling on such a small 4 rounds a year sample for a lot of these guys. You could default to saying that I like maybe someone that has a little bit more DP World Tour experience. They're just going to run into some more link style golf on that tour than they would stateside, and I think that's probably fair. I think it's more of a golfer archetype skill set thing for me than any comp course thing, right? Like, because I think I can extrapolate skill set into someone that could play well on those courses. I think you see some correlators between it. So like, I didn't lean too heavily. I think I have it in my model, but I think it's like 5% looking at like a combination of, links and hybrid links over the last, I think I did like maybe 36 rounds or something like that. So such a weird, noisy sample.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I wanted like comp courses. I wanted a comp event, because we do this like 2 weeks ago. We look at, hey, how did the John Deere go last year? Because we played at the John Deere. You can't do that because they played at They played at Portrush last year. We can't look at last year exactly. It's links golf. It's kind of similar, but it's different. So I was maybe not even looking for so much for a comp course, but like an event that played similarly. And then it's, it's tough because the further back you go, you're running into that was a different Colin Morikawa as well. And I don't know, maybe he's starting to find his way back. So I guess maybe a bit of a fruitless effort, but I tried to find something to lean on a little bit here.
St. George's. Well, you had that Colin victory in 2021. Spieth tried to hunt him down. He was very much in the mix. That bodes well for Spieth winning here in 2017. I haven't done a bunch of, Mayo does a lot of good work with that, typically looking at overlap between past leaderboards to try to, grab that data. Again, it would be something that I would think is probably statistically noisy, but better than nothing when you're trying to find, anything to make a case or exclude someone from your player card. So, I think that's probably true. I think the one more than anything, I kind of want to throw out St. Andrews from any of it when I'm trying to think of open championships, because it's such a unique experience. The ball on the ground can move a lot, but we're talking about landing a plane on some of those fairways. There are nuances to that, because it's not like that one got away where someone was winning in the mid-20s, but there was a lot of guys up towards the top and a lot of, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to think of winning score versus score relative to par for the field. Score relative to par for the field at St. Andrews is low, because you can get a lot of guys fired off. Where, here we had, to your point, benign conditions, little soft, no winds. I think it was that Saturday morning, round 3, Brandon Grace goes out and shoots a 62. It's out here for them if the conditions are a little bit softer. But I don't think we're going to get that this week, which is part of why a lot of the 2017 data to me is somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah, and I think we touched on the weather a couple times, but that has to be in the conversation for how you think some of these guys are going to play. And there are those years where we get to the Scottish, where we get to this, where I know if you're just doing other DP World Tour stuff, there's these events where it's hey, you need a low ball flight. You need to be able to cut through this wind, and it'd be a lot cooler. It would be a lot cooler if it was going to be really windy. I guess in general, it would be more fun to handicap this it's just like St. Andrews and any of these spots where, hey, guess what? If the wind doesn't kick up, these fairways are so big and they might be dry and they're running out. And if you hit it in the middle, it's going 380, baby. It doesn't have a ton of defense if you're able to play the kind of game where you take the bunkers out of the equation by clubbing down, by playing it safe on some of these spots. So, I made a pretty simple model. I wanted some distance, because I still think, everyone is down on distance this week. And I get it. If you had to lean one direction or the other, you're definitely
always an advantage.
Again, it is always an advantage. So I went with total driving. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's right down the middle. That's half distance, half accuracy. But then I also added accuracy and weighted those two the same. So I got a 2/3 accuracy, 1/3 distance, which is what I wanted. And then it was just mid wedges, 150 to 200, bogey avoidance, staying out of some of the trouble. And maybe I think I went with greens and reg as just a bit of a placeholder on, who's good with their irons. And for the most part, it popped up a lot of the names that you think you would.
All right, let's walk through it. I'm going to pop this up here. We do have a new deal for you to take advantage of Betsperts Golf for free. It's a great deal through Rebet. Again, if you go over to the site, betspertsgolf.com, you'll see this article up on the site. Again, free Betsperts Golf subscription, $250. No charge to you. All you need to do is deposit $10 over on Rebet using a promo code BSG. There are some links if you want to click through here. A sportsbook, casino, another betting option for you. They have a ton of markets. It's available.
If you wanted to do this, when we talk about Novig, but you're I already have a Novig account, then you should go get a Rebet account, because then you can take advantage of this.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to stack and extend, and the help desk, sign the help desk up for what they'll do. We'll figure out your stuff, take advantage of this deal. It's a great deal. They will also 100% match your deposit up to $100. So $10 gets you in the door. If this is something you wanted to play on, you can deposit 100. You'll instantly have 200 in your account to play. But again, you can get in the door with 10. That'll turn into 20. And then you're off and running, and you can fire on some of the bets that we're talking about today. So use promo code BSG down when you download the Rebet app. You can actually just, again, go on desktop. You can do it on the app. You can click on these links here in the article. There's some more information here on the Novig deal as well. If you have not taken advantage of that, minimum $5. But yeah, they're not going to match your deposit all the way up there, but it's still a good Novig deal if you haven't checked that out yet as well. Those are still both active, but this Rebet deal is brand new. We would love for you to check that out. Let us know if you have any specific questions there, and we can get you started. Let's look at the model that Andy is referencing. Kept it pretty simple. We talked about not having shot length and strokes gain data, but Andy went back to 2017 using driving accuracy and greens and reg. So just kind of keep it simple, stupid. Vic Perez. Got top 20 of Vic Perez incoming.
Yeah, Vic Perez is tough because that's a small sample size with live data. And
okay.
He was he another one that was like DP World Tour?
Yeah.
That's how he ended up getting to play on the, because I don't think he was in the field prior to last week. I believe he qualified based on a good finish at the Scottish Open, as so did several other names.
Because he went to live,
Perez,
right?
Yeah. So similar to, and Scottie and Hatton got all the headlines for, hey, these live players are going to play on the Scottish Open because of the deal they made with the DP World Tour. I think Perez was in that bucket. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm going to dig in on him. When the model pops a name, it isn't just like, well, all right, Victor Perez to win the Open at any price. Give me that 150 to 1. I'll take it. But I am going to look into it because, some of this data is going to encompass the other bigger events he was able to play. It's probably not a big sample size, but we'll see what happens with him.
Maybe a first round leader bet. Victor Perez is good for a random 64 once a tournament, right? It's just a matter of can you suss through the 75 that comes on the other side of it? But he's capable of going low, and you can see here in your data set. I don't know the sample, but keeping bogeys off the scorecard too. So this is a nice little Victor Perez pop. Siwoo, third in your model. Russell Henley, Matthew Fitzpatrick. So some of the names here in the top 5, I think it makes sense, especially from a modeling standpoint.
All the same guys that model well, because I used approach, I used greens and reg. It's the guys that have played well, and I guess Henley pop, but Siwoo all year. Doesn't matter what you do. Siwoo's going to model pretty highly if you use basic stats.
He putted well last week too. He was, probably a finishing position type bet for me. I'm not betting Siwoo to win the Open Championship, but has been ball striking face off all year. And
I didn't catch everything you did with Ron yesterday. I don't know how much you talked about that. How much weight are you putting into Scottish Open finish for some of these guys? Because, some of the guys, it's like, hey, they had this, they had that. Maybe they didn't have all the pieces I wanted to make a bet on them. But if they gained a bunch of strokes in certain categories or just overall played well last week, sometimes it gives you a bump up. It's a little bit. It's links-ish.
Yeah. Or just, it's a combination of links-ish. It's, a little bit slower. They're saying the greens aren't going to be that slow. I'm interested to see, because of the weather, exposed to the wind and nature, you typically see links golf, Open Championship, fescue run a little bit slower. It's going to be on the slower side relative to what we see in a lot of other major championships, but I don't think it's going to be really slow. But again, maybe we'll get some more information from the course. But putting on fescue a little bit. So it's a combination of the layout links-ish, but also just recent form, right? You came over here and played pretty well last week. We were like that anyway, right? That's, I think, kind of the MO that we have in a lot of weeks, especially major championship weeks, is these are typically not spots where you find it. We like you to kind of bring it, especially when you need to pack it overseas. Kind of finding your form here is something that's a tall task, and not something I'm really looking for. But some interesting names here. Molinari on the list. Greens and reg is really nice for Molinari. You got both.
And I think didn't he just have a good week last week?
He did.
That's the whole driving factor, I think, for him.
You got Ricky and European Ricky inside the top 12 with Ricky Fowler and Tommy Fleetwood. Can we talk about Tommy's price in the outright market?
It's a bit much. I get that he's lived here in the past.
Still does. Apparently calls Southport home still with, all of his kids. And yeah, it's a wild number, dude. It is like,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. I would love to make the case for him. And, he's a lot of fun to cheer and root for, but man, it's rough. It's a rough price. Especially when he tells you how much it means to him. Sometimes like that, for some guys, I think you're going to get up for it. And then some guys I'm like, oh, it actually makes me a little bit nervous about you that like you care about this one so much. Again, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm betting on another guy that I think has been articulating how much this one means to him. But like he's kind of shown up in those spots and done it where Tommy is just really not, like just doesn't win golf tournaments. For him to be sub 20 is kind of insane. Anyone here that's in your top 10? Are those the guys that have made the card?
Just one.
Is it my friend
It
Russell
is
Henley?
not. It is not.
Oh. Okay. Is it Victor Hovland?
No, although I like him a lot, and I've liked him a lot recently, but it is Matt Fitzpatrick, and that was an early click. Like I got a better number than it's available. There's places there's places that are down to like 16 to 1.
Yeah.
It's probably more fair, but honestly, I'm just kind of coming into this week, even last week, I was just thinking about that. I didn't even think about the whole, hey, you can bet on majors way earlier. You can bet on them now because it's a major and the odds are up at most places. I didn't think to bet them last week because last week I was just as I got to thinking about, Birkdale here, it's like I think Matt just wins. And
it's so good, man.
Between the form and what he's put together so far this season and the fit here and the fit on just links courses and the conditions we're going to have and some of the accuracy he brings, it's like, all right, I'll just bet him at like whatever it comes up to be, and ended up getting around 20. I think best price right now is about $18.50 if you shop around. But like I said, there's places that are down to 16 to 1, which I applaud that. That's correct. That's how it should be.
12 on Caesars if you
don't do that. Don't do that. So
yeah. I think he's a good chalk. It
is, especially the rest of the guys. Like, I took Rory last week, and Jesus, what could have been if he didn't play golf Saturday?
Me too. Yeah.
Like, what were you doing Saturday? He was so good for 3 days.
I was so excited to turn the golf on Saturday, and he just like his miserable hour and a half of like 8 holes of like, and Fitz dog walked him. Like Fitz ran out and like just. Yeah, it was funny that they actually kind of came back to each other on Sunday because Rory played great and Fitz did not. But it was painful having the Rory piece because it looked pretty good. But I agree with you. I think the Fitz, if I'm making a short of 20, even really short of 30 stab at it, it's probably Fitz. The price is still a little short, but again, if you go back to some of the ways that I think you have to think about it, the way we often will talk about it, we know that the hold in this market is insane. It's relative to his peers, essentially. So you're basically telling me that Scottie and Rory have twice, and in some instances, Scottie numbers maybe 3x win equity on Fitz, and that's, I think we both agree, a bridge too far. I did not bet Fitz, but I think it's a good play, especially at 20. More than fair.
Yeah, first click. Pretty easy first click for me. And then as I mentioned, how much do you put into last week? How much do you take into account what happened last week or just in general late form? And the best number I could find on my other guy is 36 to 1. I'll let you guess on that one.
Best number you can find or that you did find?
Can find. Bet him today.
Ty Hatton.
Oh, I thought about it. Close. He's right next to him.
Bobby Mack?
It is Bobby Mack.
Okay.
And I mean, poke holes in that one. Yeah, poke holes in that one. I dare you, because it's another one where he's a European golfer. What was his total strokes gained last week?
I think he had a solid week. He was right there in the mix. Let's see where we get.
It's funny how he didn't model all that well.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the stuff that you're using is not going to do well for him. His irons have been better, but like if you're pulling larger samples, like his irons were rough there for a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe I do need to look at a bit of a shorter sample size on some of these guys for this week.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the trending line for approach has been really solid for the last 24 rounds. So he makes a ton of sense. Yeah, gained across the board. Basically, has done that almost in 2 straight weeks. Approach numbers electric last week. Absolutely no problem with Bobby Mack. These guys are going to be for your pools or for DFS, like inflection points of what you do and how much ownership you want to run into, because they both are going to be very, very popular, justifiably so. And I have to figure out what you want to do. But looking at this little stretch here, Canada, U.S. Open, Travelers, Genesis, finishing positions aren't electric, but he's been really good.
He's just playing really good
consistent,
golf. And
playing really good golf.
Into last week, and then and some people don't like to say it's a true links course, but it's close enough for me to feel pretty good about how he's looking right now.
For sure. Again, going back to the surfaces, that hard, fescue compound fairway, and like I don't know, I think it's the best we got, right? So the putters obviously in the spot like that too. I think Justin Ray had some stats on if you're looking at where guys have separated from a strokes gain standpoint, putting has been pretty sticky at the Open Championship. So thoughts on Gotterup top American at 18-1. Yeah, totally fair. If you don't like Gotterup got beat down in the futures market after the John Deere win. So if that price is a little too rich for you, I think coming into
the competition ahead of him is essentially, I mean, Scheffler's a huge chunk of that, but it's Scheffler, Xander, Wyndham, Colin, Cameron Young. Yeah, I mean, and anybody else is going to be longer than him, no matter where you're looking.
Yeah, I don't take that at all. I think it's probably the best way.
It's a fun way to approach that for sure.
It's the best way to approach it, I think, because you're looking at like, what are we looking at now? Like there are some 30s, 33s, but like, 28 in some spots. It's really rich. And again, shame on me. Should we be poo-pooing Chris Gotterup's ability to win and close? Like, no, he's getting it done. This is fascinating to me.
That's a fun bet, because I looked at Gotterup and I just, like you said, I just price wise couldn't do it. I'm like, I don't know about all this. But
a lot of collective, non-US
free,
win equity that is probably not being priced in to 18. So I think 18 is probably a pretty fair number.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look. I do like those. I don't get enough time on some of these to really get into the nationality markets, but man, that's a fun bet. That's a good bet, I think. So, yeah. Especially if you're a little out on Scottie at price, and obviously I'm a little out on Xander at price. I don't know that Wyndham's out there with clothes hangers, and we'll see what. I mean,
I like that drill.
There are other. Sam Burns is definitely in the mix, although who knows if he plays the whole tournament.
Well, they had the baby,
Patrick
so I think we're good.
Yeah. So the baby came. It's not like he's gonna miss. So he's here. He's playing golf, or he's getting ready to play golf. So
look at Xander. You just never see this for Xander. And again, smallish sample, 24 rounds. He's slightly below field average, but like this is a guy that often separates this way, right? So it's not even that he's below field average. It's just the delta between his baseline, his 200 round baseline is 0.64 strokes. He's the last 8 rounds, he's a half, or he's a full stroke below that, and just kind of scuffling. Which I don't know what to make up for a Xander Schauffele. So missed the cut last week. don't know why this gave me Bobby Mack at the bottom. But yeah, you just never see, miss the cut. Travelers, again, bleeding on approach. Early in the year was just frustratingly always there, not closing. And I had bet a bunch of these. But this is a little bit bleeding into the short game stuff as well, where he's, not making anything on the greens. So that one's, I just looked at the odds board and I guess I didn't realize how poorly he'd been playing. I'm like, God, Xander's such a big number. Rahm is such a big number compared to where they typically are. And I'm like, it's just, these are decisions we have to make, and easy to kick yourself. Like, oh, I should be looking at a bigger sample for Xander. I should be looking at a bigger sample for Rahm. But like, I don't know. It's not how I like to bet golf. I'd like you to be kind of playing well.
Do you have any thoughts on like Xander, Abear, especially Scottie, these guys that are very, very focused on this week and maybe less focused on last week? As far as like, taking that miscut and I mean, it's still like, I don't think they weren't trying. Like,
it's a national open. You hear these guys continue to beat us over the head with like how much they care about national opens as we kind of go into this new world. Like, I feel like, I think I heard some people talk about that as like a reason to fade Rory last week. I didn't buy that whatsoever. And I think it played itself out pretty early. Like, he didn't shit the bed on Saturday because he didn't care. He just played poorly. I think he went there to win. So I think the way to leverage this is in DFS, to be honest. Like, if you think that there's some bounce back on Scottie, Ludwig, Xander, for instance, take it into the DFS streets.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think it's something I wanted to do in the betting space, or maybe you could do matchups. You're going to get a better price on those three guys against other guys that maybe you want to fade towards the top that aren't maybe good fits. So not fits, but good course fits. So I don't know. I think maybe matchups and DFS versus outrights. Just my personal opinion. Yeah,
I guess maybe the prep just wasn't as complete. Some of these guys that were also getting ready, doing prep for both tournaments at once. I think once they got over here, because there were people that definitely had popped over and played rounds at Birkdale, and I don't know. You harken back to some of the stuff that you'd see on like, Full Swing, where they get with some of these caddies, and it's fun to see that part of like the caddies doing prep. And if we know some caddies that have looped on tour, and they talk about the prep that they do to get ready for a tournament, and you watch, if any of that is just less than, I guess, sometimes you just don't have as good of results. So yeah, I think that's I'm not super worried about the miscuts for these guys, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so you got Fitz and Bobby Mack, and you're shopping the board, staying loose,
and Gotterup Top American. I gotta go see if I can get anywhere near Paul Frias. I mean, he's betting at Coral and Starbet and all the million different shops over there. He just walks down the street of bookies.
Yeah, I think it's a good price. I don't know. I think maybe even to 15. I think I'd probably consider that. I think that's probably fine. As is typically the case, again, not right, wrong, or indifferent. And we grade these things, and like, I don't know. To be honest, you and I probably win more than any, than our peers in our modeling contest. We do very different. Have a lot more stats. Like you said, multiple ways to skin the cat, and we kind of still land on some similar names. Again, Tommy modeled very, very well for me. There's just no way, shape, or form I'm ever betting Tommy sub 20. It can't do it. But Fitz was the one I did consider. Like I said, some other names that we have that kind of overlaps with Colin and Russ. Xander's still in there too. I got Bobby Mack right there. There's Gotterup. Nothing that was like insanely egregious, or like guys that are Cam Young actually models relative to salary pretty poorly for me, which is painful, because to your point at the very top, like feels like we're ascending, and then like all of a sudden can't find water if you fell out of a boat on the greens, which is tough. But again, decent Open Championship course history, or events history. Yeah, some good questions here. Let's see. Brandon wants to know if I wanted a model to see what players struggle to hit greens in reg, in fairways and reg in these conditions, how would I go about that? It's a great question. So when you say in these conditions, that can get a little tricky. We can model wind if you wanted to. You go into the filter by conditions section. And again, if you're seeing this for the first time, you're just watching the YouTube video, you're not a subscriber. First of all, thumbs up on the video, like, all those things help us. We appreciate it. Just told you a way for you to get it for $10 with Rebet for a full year. Try that, do it. Wind data's here. It's a little noisy. Would you agree, Andy? It's not something that
it's tough because it can be a smaller sample size.
Yeah. It's not nothing. Again, I'm looking at it this week, but again, I'm barely weighing it. It's just almost like you could put it in your model and not give it a ton of weight or weight it at all, but just kind of want to see it and use it as a tiebreaker. You can do that. So if you're looking for greens in reg, fairways in reg, what I think my best way to do it would be is you can go in here and look at greens in reg accuracy. You can just go difficult. So you're going to get a pretty small sample. You can go average difficult, basically weeding out any scenarios when, you would kind of pull out easy greens and reg situations. And you can make the decision based off of, I maybe would run the difficult first, see what you get, see what your sample looks like. And then, adjust the time frame if you want. I wouldn't want to go back too far either. Again, this is some subjectivity in terms of how you like to model and, how you feel about it. Do you want to be grabbing 2 years of data? I wouldn't necessarily. It's there for you, but that's one way you can go about it. And same thing, you can look at fairway accuracy being here on difficult. If you want to go average, you can do the same thing. I think this week is a great week to look at some of these situations in here with like less than driver, mixed driver usage off the tee. I think we definitely don't think it's a driver heavy event, and I think weeding that data out of the data set would be important. It's also a spot where we have a high missed fairway penalty and a high rough penalty. So, weeding out maybe scenarios where there's a low missed fairway penalty or a rough penalty. That does often coincide with driver heavy. But again, if you wanted to do it, you could do that there as well. You could see going back more, if you wanted to kind of look at strokes gained, you can kind of lean on some of the spots where it's difficult to gain on approach. Because if you go back into our the tool section and go into the course database, this is the fundamental piece, Brendan, or anyone that's listening to and modeling and doing this for the first time. This is going to give you some of the answers of how to kind of go about it. This is difficult off the tee, and it's been very difficult to gain on approach here. So this is giving you some indicators of what you would want to do from a model building condition situation in the rabbit hole. So wind is in here. Again, if you want to go windy and moderate to kind of get a bigger, less noisy sample size, that's a way that you could do it here as well. Could do dry conditions. We had we used to have firm and soft. We pulled it out because it was a little bit noisy. We didn't love how the tour was tracking that, but I think it's a week that you can maybe look at dry. That could be a piece of it. Hopefully that answers your question, but you can use the strokes gain metrics, or you can use kind of the basic greens and reg fairway accuracy stuff here, and that should probably be able to help you. But thanks for joining. Thanks for subscribing, and hope that helps.
Yeah, and it's a good spot for, if you're not in the Discord yet, get in there, talk to other people who are doing this. You're like, what filters did you use this week for trying to match up the conditions? And I think there's some smart people in there that have found unique ways to use some of the data tools here. Yeah.
I'm using some of that a little bit. Like I have, this is actually probably, I think, the biggest piece of my model this week, strokes gained tee to green. I'm looking at the last 50 rounds. I basically have weeded out driver heavy, and I wanted to look at, high rough and high fairway penalty. So again, getting a little bit, clicky with the filtering, but I do think that's a little signal in terms of how the course is going to play. And I do think when I, search by who performs well in this, I do think it's a little bit of an indicator with Scottie, Russ, Spawn, Colin, Rory, right? Connors, Siwoo, Fleetwood, Rye, Kitayama. These guys control the ball, right? I feel like that's a strong ball strikers list, a strong keep the ball in play list. So I think there is some signal into that. So there's definitely different ways to kind of go about it. And again, this is what I would recommend too, going into that expert model section here. And you could see, Andy's models here. Matt Vicenti's got a model. Ron's mine. John Hasselbauer, PJ Tout, Mayo's got his model in here. You can see some stuff that other people are doing and get a sense of, open them up, click into here. You can get a sense of the filtering, any of the different things that people did, kind of wisdom of the crowd stuff. We also put up our collective, Andy puts that together for us, our collective consensus rankings based off of weighting all of the models here. And I think that could be helpful too, if you just kind of want to not do the work and kind of get a sense of what we like. So hopefully that helps. I know Brendan was in Discord and I did direct him to the live shows because we do a little bit more screen sharing. So I think he joined us today. We appreciate that.
This guy's very keen on Bryson. I don't know what Bryson's head at. Somebody else asked, Nick asked about Bryson. Music Man 23 says Bryson's going to bounce back and finish top 3. I don't know if this is a great course fit for him, which again, Bryson's been such a puzzle to try to figure out and how he's
running a very competitive 40-yard dash. I don't know if you saw that this week.
Yeah, I really don't know if he's super focused on actually winning these events, and he's missed every cut at the major. Going for the golden sombrero this week. He was, when he was at the top of his game, he was such a good putter. And obviously he always had the distance. He's always had the club speed. He can fight through this rough if he needs to. I don't know. I'm going to be Bryson agnostic. I think if you want to take a stand on him in DFS, one way or the other, that's maybe a really good leverage piece if you feel strongly, because it feels like he could go real hard either way. But for now, again, you just don't get to see him play enough golf outside of, chipping into a plastic cup in his mansion, or I can try to hit a ball over his house, trying to break 59 at a goat track. It's just strange. It's just strange to try to handicap the guy right now. So your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I don't think he's bouncing back and finishing in the top 3. But again, I think the best way to leverage that thought, if that is yours, as is this gentleman in the chat, I think DFS is the best way to play that out. Again, it is not going to cost you a lot to double down on that in the outright market, but I think leveraging that against the field, where I'd imagine he's pretty lightly rostered. I haven't looked at anything DFS related yet. As we record here on Tuesday, but I would imagine he is not going to be anticipated to be highly owned. So not for me.
Yeah, just go double the field's percentage in your player pool. See where it gets you. If he plays well, you're going to win some events. You're going to win some contests.
I'm going to rattle off mine. I have 6 bets. I'm actually still a little bit under my normal weekly allotment, which is, I usually do a little bit more for a major. So I have a little room. I don't know. I might just sit out and might do what you're doing and just see if there's a live wave advantage. I like to get into the futures market. I don't do it a ton or as much as some others, but this is the one that I don't really, because of the weather situations, because there isn't really a wave advantage here, because everyone goes off of one. You literally just have someone teeing off every 10 minutes for 10 hours. But you definitely can get caught in a wave disadvantage here in terms of again, not standard wave. But so I, with you, sat out a lot of the pre stuff. And the one bet that I wanted to make a couple weeks ago, and I'm I'm just going to wait, still was available for me this week. So didn't feel bad about it. But my first click was Colin, 35. Yeah. 5th in the model, as you saw. There's just playing really good golf. I'm looking at distance from the edge of the fairway, ball striking stuff that I just have up on the screen here. Just a lot of good Colin numbers. His putter's been really hot. He's gained strokes putting in 4 straight. He's been inside the top 10 in putting when it's difficult to gain putting. And he's putted well here in Europe. Actually 4th in strokes gained ball striking in windy conditions over the past 12 months, which is better than I thought. And again, not something I'm weighing a ton, but again, just looking at it and going, okay, that helps. He's not 110th. So then it made me a little bit more nervous. So I don't think he's just playing really good. Was competitive last time out of the Travelers. I think the number's really, really fair for Colin. at 35. So that was my first click, and I liked hearing you reference.
Yeah, I was close. I was close on him.
You reference Royal the St. George, so that that was nice. So again, you missed a little time. He's finished in the top 10 in half his starts. It's like I think his best career rate's like 37% or something like that. So he's been, in the mix a little bit. Was in the mix at Shinnecock. Was in the mix at Travelers. He's been playing some pretty good golf. Maybe I pushed you over the edge. You said you were flirting with the Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland at 41.
Yeah,
was my next one. I don't think that he's all the way back to late summer 2023. But if you looked, I used our floor ceiling model and review here on the rabbit hole. He's gained strokes ball striking in 87.5% of his rounds over the past 2 months. It is comfortably the best number in the field. He did it again last week. He finished 13th. He did not putt very well, but just seems to be ball striking it really well. And he's gained strokes putting in 4 of his 5 career Open Championship starts. So typically likes the greens here. And the one thing, again, his kind of bugaboo historically, short game, is actually his short grass chipping. If you look at around the green proximity on short grass, is actually pretty good. So really accurate off the tee when he takes less than driver, which again, a lot of these guys are, but I think he's like third. So Hovland, I think north of 40 seems super fair to me. So
and then real quick, didn't mention that when we did my model, but that was the one I couldn't remember. And I'm sure you saw it on the screen though, but I did put in some around the green from the short grass. Yeah. Because if you miss these greens, you're not usually rolling into a deep grass situation where it's going to either bury your ball or hold it up a little. You're chipping off the short stuff, which I am not good at.
Which is very hard. The tour pros will tell you a lot of them would much rather have, at least the not great short game guys would much rather have those thick chops through it. So Hovland, I like north of 40. I don't know if that's available at all anymore, to be fair. 35, Bovada. Domestics looks like 33 on DraftKings. So I still think that's within range. Pinnacle's kind of right in that range too. So don't hate that on a Victor Hovland. Great man, Justin Rose at 43. I never bet Rosie. He rarely models well. He actually modeled decently for me. Again, I played 43. Where's Rose at right now? High 30s, 39 on DraftKings. Dude's just straight up a big game hunter. We've done 3 majors. If you think of like the other events on the calendar that aren't majors, but you would give a ton of credence to in terms of, the signature circle, probably Players and Memorial, maybe Riviera, kind of like the next 3. This dude's just like T12 at all these events. He's talked about how, and we're going to see it so much, a fairy tale love story with Birkdale. This is where he made his debut on the global stage at 17, found himself, chipped in from the rough on the 72nd hole, finished T4, at 17 and just kind of ascended and hasn't left, I think our, professional competitive golf ever since. I think this is like very much opposite of Tommy, where like he's articulated how much this would mean to him. But like, I think Rose is up for it. Whereas Tommy, I think, is like, you're getting a little tight in the pants on Sunday if like Tommy's in the mix. But I think Rosie's like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's get this one. I need a claret jug. And he's been real close like 3-4 times. So I think this is more than fair for Rosie at 43. At 40, almost 46 years old. Russell Henley at 55. I mean, I'm not going to bet that.
Sure.
Right? Like,
not going to be
back
mad
to back.
at you.
Yeah. I mean, again, we want to have FOMO on a Sunday. Is Russell Henley's in one of the final 3 groups, and I sat out. Not happening. 55 is not even expensive for me to take the plunge. I think T5 last year here at the Open, T10 the year before, or maybe I have those reversed. It's been really competitive the last couple of times at the Open Championship. Again, similar cut and paste handicap to Colin. Keep it in play off the tee. Short game, make your putts. It just never plays himself out of things. We like him when scoring conditions are difficult. I I think he just has no business being north of 50. 2 longer shots I played each ways. Harris English at 110. Solo second here last year. Putts really well in Europe historically. 5th in around the green, proximity on short grass. 5th in putting when it's difficult to gain. 110 with 8 places. Missed the cut last week, but he was, I think, among the field leaders in tee to green, distance from the edge of the fairway, greens and reg. He just didn't putt well, which is never the case for Harris English. And then
how he
Wrighton,
played last year wins that tournament an awful lot of times.
First round leader, was in the mix all the way to the end. Yeah. So triple digits, and I'm getting 8 places I like. And then Wrighton at 125, same thing. I wanted to bet him like a couple months ago. Like DraftKings had like a 150. There's some 120s. I like the 125 with the each way. Again, this guy won a Siggy earlier this year. Obviously a Norwegian, has a lot of experience here in links golf. Good on short grass, better because around the green play is not great, but he has pretty massive short grass splits that are beneficial to him. So I like it. Can keep the ball in play off the tee. Ball striking is great. It's just, can he chip and putt? So he really is kind of like a Hovland light in a lot of ways. And I'm hoping this is a solid week for him. And again, we're covering a bunch of places. So like those prices and like the each way. So the 4 winners at the top, just winning, just outright. But I like the each way markets on some of the longer shots because I'm kind of with you.
As I shit on going for the long shots, I think you can if you can get a good each way price, or you
because I agree with you at the top. Yeah. If you look at who's won here, it's like those guys were all alphas at the time. Like you've not had a winner ever at Birkdale. It's just that that dude was one of the best golfers in the world at the time. They came here and he won. Now, yeah, that changes. The Kuchar would have beat Spieth for sure. So it's a little bit selection bias, but like I'm kind of with you. I think a top tier guy is winning.
Yeah. Didn't have time to get to Corrales Puntacana. But if you are on if you go on the site, we have a course preview. I will be making a model for it this afternoon. I may just use an old model I use whenever they play at I built one I kind of like 2 years ago for like Sanderson, and I kind of like it here. And I'll give you my top 5 quick. To model well in my simple chicken model, I call it, because it started at the Sanderson. Chris Ventura.
Okay.
Blades Brown, who is one of the favorites.
Like that.
Steven Yeager played well last week. AJ Ewert and Taylor Moore.
Okay.
I'll probably have I'll find 2 or 3 guys I like to bet. I gotta have some sweat in the afternoon once the TV turns off for the day at the British Open. So if you are interested in Punta Cana stuff, like I said, there's a article on the site. We'll have some more content for it later on too.
Yep. You can see those here. Yeah. We even got some weather on the Corrales there too. You can see weather report here on the Open Championship. Like if you want to read more about my outright selections, Mayo's got some thoughts in here. He is +1 on Fitz with Andy here. And this is the important one too, the free Betsperts Golf subscription article. Click the links. Take advantage of that rebet deal, guys. It is awesome. It's a fun platform to play on. We've done some deals with rebet in the past, and pretty easy interface, pretty good user experience over there. So check them out. Take advantage. Get that 100% deposit match. And then, you'll get an email. We're trying to speed up that process, maybe 48 to 72 hours. And again, they'll get you a link to get you into Betsperts Golf for no additional charge for a full calendar year. So if you take advantage of it this week, you'll cover yourself through all of the majors next year as well. So check that out. Let us know if you have any specific questions, and we can definitely help you out. So, all right, my friend, good stuff as always. Let's get some winners.
We'll
get home.
See you next week for the big one. 3M Open.
Ooh, boots in the ground again.
Big couple. Yeah, I'll probably head up Tuesday. Go watch some. I love some practice rounds. That's such a chill environment. So
get some free pasta salad, some free chicken salad, maybe.
It's free food in the
Dasanis. As many Dasanis as you want to drink.
Oh yeah, just some. Oh god, the one thing I will say about the John Deere, they had a lot of Powerade, different than like 5 different colors. That was good on them because it was hot as shit. Needed to be slamming some of those. So, Yeah, we'll see you next week. The Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Open in Blaine, Minnesota.